Hi, I thought I'd share a little about how I use the math textbooks and workbooks. This is 5A. They basically all work the same. They have a preface at the beginning, which goes through how the books are organized and all the things you need to know to use the book successfully. Then there's a table of contents. I usually refer back to the table of contents once I've taught topics and I'm looking back to find them again. You can see the textbook has a lot of great colors and examples with pictures, some characters that are thinking things that can guide us, and also some great graphics. Word problems are great. So here's a word problem, and then there's an example with a picture and shows the two methods of thinking. I always use manipulatives for situations like this. Like, even if I don't have squares in two different colors to use, I might use, let's say, pennies and dimes, and then I would line them up just like this on the table. If I was using pennies, I would put 6 pennies in a row and line them all up, and then I would maybe dimes, 4 dimes in a row, and I'd set this pattern up with the coins. And then, you know, my kid would have something to manipulate, which is always helpful when doing math. Then here you have 2 methods to go about solving the problem. With math, you know, there are all different ways to solve. So I would say, even if the books have one way or 2 ways, you know, if our children come up with a different way to solve it, that's great too. Like, there's no one exact way to do math, as long as you arrive at the answer and you understand the concept. So these books all have activities in the workbook. I use it to teach. So I sit with the workbook with my child, and we have a dry erase board and a dry erase marker. I think that's more fun for the kids than using pencil and paper all the time. And usually I read most of the problems and we work them out together with my guidance. Often I'm doing the writing for these type of problems, and then maybe, you know, my daughter is writing something, you know, doing one problem, working it out, just, you know, so I could see that she knows it if it's something that you need to work out. Sometimes it's things that you can talk about and do in your mind, like, you know, increasing or decreasing numbers by 10, 100, 1,000. Let's see, here's the multiplication one. So let's say you have 4 10s, 40, and 3 1s. And then you're multiplying by 10. The concept is to understand that anything 10 times greater moves over 1 place in the place value system in our chart. So like, if you have 4 10s, it becomes 4 hundreds. And this would be also a great time to work with manipulatives using the tiles, the Montessori stamp game tiles. And you can actually take out 10s, 1s, and 100s and make the piles. So if you have 43 10 times, you can take out 4 10s, 3 1s, take out that many 4 times. So you would have 40 10s, and you would have 30 1s. And then you can exchange for hundreds and 10s. So you can take your 31s and exchange them for 3 10s, and you can take your 40 10s and exchange them for 400s, and then the kids could see that happen. And I would do that more than once if you think that that would be helpful before even going on. And then in the book, in the textbook, there's these little pencils throughout the book, and the pencils have page numbers, and that's the matching pages in the workbook. So for this activity, let's see, for 10s and 1s, we go to page 18 and 19 in the workbook. So we go to the workbook and we go to 18 and 19. And that matches. Dividing by 10, dividing by 50, 800, and so on. Is there a multiplication? Yep, also multiplication. Times 10, times 40, times 1,000. So it matches. And all the books work that way, right? We have 2A for textbook, I just want to point out how helpful it is. Like if you're, let's see here's a sample page. How many stamps are there? And this little girl is recommending count by tens, right? So if you were to skip the textbook and you go straight to the workbook, when you're in the workbook, you may not realize that the activity is counting by tens. So here, exercise 1, page 7 through 9. So let's go to the workbook, page 7. Okay, here we go. So here you have bundles of 10 and then ones, right? But if you didn't do the textbook activity, the child might count this by ones, which is fine to find out there's 10 in a bundle. But then you wouldn't want to practice saying 11, 12, 13, 14, right? Because that's not the goal of the activity. The goal of the activity is count by tens. But you might not know that if you just jump into the workbook page, because it says write the number in the boxes. The learning happens in the textbook. And then the practicing happens in the workbook. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 51, 52, 53, and so on. Okay, and then same thing, I have another grade here, 4th grade. Just want to point out one other thing about using the books and the importance of the textbook is that when you work with the textbook, like I said before, it shows you the goal. So what number is 10,000 more than 345,084, right? This is more of a thinking activity and doing it without writing down the numbers. More, look, where is the 10,000s place? Here it is. Okay, 4 becomes 5. So then you would increase it in your mind and then say 355,084. And after you practice in here together, which is I think a really successful way to have the kids learn the concepts is if we talk things out with them and then they go off on their own to practice the other pages. So 15, 16 matches this. Okay, here we go. It's page 15. This was done last year by my daughter. And we have all the concepts here practiced in the mind. And then you see this one is worked out on paper, which of course, nothing wrong with that. This one was a little challenging because there was nothing in the 100,000s place, but it was taking away 100,000. And then actually it was subtracted incorrectly. So we went over that after and talked about that. So yeah, so just, I guess that is something that I love using the textbook with the workbook, and it pairs nicely together. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to go over any of the other pages, and if you ever have a question about a problem in a book, you can always reach out to me or bring the books when we see each other. Okay, hope that helped. Bye.